This is the Pavo Pico 2. It's a micro cine whoop with 45mm props that can run both the DJI O4 Lite and the DJI O4 Pro, which means you can set up this tiny little drone to be a lightweight micro ripper or a super capable filming rig that can fly in tight spaces to get some unique cinematic FPV shots. With the DJI O4 Lite, the Pavo Pico 2 weighs a little under 54 grams. And on 45mm props, it's pretty quiet. Here's what it sounds like. With this lightweight system, it hovers at about 25% throttle. And with DJI O4 Pro, notice I am running full-size antennas on mine. We'll talk about that in just a minute. My Pavo Pico 2 weighs 81.5 grams. And with the heavier DJI O4 Pro, it hovers at about 42% throttle. Here's what that setup sounds like. We do have two separate PID tunes for the Pavo Pico 2, one for the DJI O4 Pro and one for the DJI O4, or the DJI O4 Lite as I keep calling it, because the video system you choose will really change how this drone flies. You should go with the DJI O4 Lite setup if you want to prioritize flight time and performance, and you should go with the DJI O4 Pro setup if your priority is getting high quality FPV footage. We'll dive deeper into the trade-offs you'll make with either of those choices, and we are going to compare the Pavo Pico 2 to the Pavo20 Pro and to the Pavo Femto. So don't go anywhere. When the original Pavo Pico came out with the DJI O3, it was a huge deal that a sub 100 gram drone could record 4K 60 video, but the problem was that the DJI O3 system was very heavy and it didn't fly that well. I used the Femto canopy to mount a DJI O4 to my Pavo Pico, and it flew so much better because the DJI O4 Lite is about 30 grams lighter than the O3, but the soft mounting system that BetaFPV used on the Femto canopy wasn't great at preventing jello in your footage. With the Pavo Pico 2, BetaFPV has redesigned the camera mounting system, and now the entire bracket is soft mounted to the carbon plate with these 4 rubber grommets. As you can see, it's very soft and it does seem to isolate the camera from vibrations, but the proof is in the footage. With the original canopy, there was always some jello, and gyroflow didn't give me very good results. With this new canopy, the footage looks so much better, and after I run it through gyroflow, it looks pretty good. Now, DJI O4 footage doesn't compare to DJI O4 Pro footage. The O4 Pro is in a different league, but with the new canopy, we can get some nice, clean 4K 60 frames per second footage that's completely usable. And that's a big deal if you think about the cost and weight advantages of the DJI O4. The other major update with the Pavo Pico 2 is that the carbon frame has been redesigned to be stiffer and to take the DJI O4 Pro canopy that BetaFPV uses on the Pavo20 Pro. The DJI O4 Lite camera bracket has 35.7mm spacing, and the O4 Pro bracket has 45.6mm spacing, and that's why the O4 Pro bracket wouldn't fit on the original Pavo Pico. This is a big deal for me because I already have a Pavo20 Pro, and now I can move a single DJI O4 Pro from one drone to another just by removing 4 screws and unplugging the air unit. SpeedyBee did this a while back with their modular camera head that can be moved from the Master 3X to the B25, and BetaFPV has basically done the same thing with a cheaper, lightweight design with this $4 DJI O4 Pro bracket. And remember that the Pavo Pico 2 and the Pavo20 Pro are very affordable if you get them without a DJI O4 Pro system. So if you already have one of these drones, or if you plan to get one in the future, you'll have the option to move a single DJI O4 Pro system between them. The Pico 2 is using BetaFPV's new 1102 14,000 kV motors, and even though the size is the same, the design of the magnets has been improved, and supposedly performance has been increased by 10%. The Pico 2 uses the same 20 amp board that we've seen on BetaFPV's other drones. It has a built-in ELRS receiver, which works great. This little red wire is the ELRS antenna. It's nice to see that they've positioned it up here in the front for better reception and to keep it out of the way of the battery. On past Pavo drones, it was always tucked under the battery down here. This board doesn't have a USB plug, so you do need to use this dongle, which plugs in right here whenever you want to connect your quad to Betaflight. The battery tray is a molded plastic cage that's been sized to fit BetaFPV's 450 and 550 milliamp 2S lava packs. Personally, I prefer to cut the tray and to use a small battery strap because it's easier to swap out batteries and you have more freedom to use different brands of batteries. A normal battery strap weighs about 2 grams, but you could also use a Velcro cable tie, which weighs practically nothing. I got a roll of these on Amazon to use with micros. They're super cheap and I'll link to them in the video description. This is what the Pavo Pico weighs with the DJI O4 Lite, a lightweight battery strap with a 550 milliamp 2S battery. And with this setup, I flew for about 5.5–6 minutes. With the DJI O4 Pro, with the original DJI antennas and a lightweight battery strap, and with a 550 milliamp 2S battery, it weighs 111.5 grams. And with this setup, I flew for between 3.5 to 4 minutes. So the flight times are significantly shorter with the DJI O4 Pro. If you're planning to run your Pavo Pico 2 with the DJI O4 Pro, I would highly recommend swapping out these DJI antennas for these lightweight whip antennas that BetaFPV includes in the box. They'll save you about 3 grams, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot on such a tiny drone. And the range is surprisingly good. And you would outrun your battery or your ELRS antenna before you outran the range of these whip antennas. I'm not using the lightweight antennas on my Pavo Pico 2 because I like to move this DJI O4 Pro between this drone and my Pavo20 Pro. And it's just more convenient for me to leave them on and to pay that 3-gram weight penalty. With the lightweight DJI O4, the Pavo Pico 2 absolutely rips. The power to weight ratio is insane, and with those 45mm props, the Pavo Pico 2 can really move. It's super agile and responsive, and I had a blast flying it. What I love about this setup is that you can fly freestyle with it, but it's so maneuverable that you can fly in small spaces, and since it's super lightweight, it doesn't really make much noise. A question that I get a lot is what's the quietest drone? Because I think a lot of pilots want to be able to fly in public places or around their neighborhood without causing too much of a scandal. Well, the quietest drone is going to be a drone that's lightweight for its prop size. And the Pavo Pico 2 with the DJI O4 Lite on 45mm props is right up there with the quietest drone you can get. So it's the perfect neighborhood or park flyer. All right, you guys, now I switched the Pavo Pico 2 over to the DJI O4 Pro, and I did select PID Profile 2, and I even added a little expo because I'm planning on flying in a more smooth cinematic style. With the DJI O4 Pro, the Pavo Pico 2 flies more like a Cinewhoop and less like a pocket rocket because the power to weight ratio is very different with that heavier DJI O4 Pro system on board. Keep in mind that this setup is actually lighter and more powerful than the original Pavo Pico, which ran DJI O3. And if your priority is getting usable footage from that DJI O4 Pro, you're probably flying in a more controlled and disciplined cinematic style anyway. And that extra weight might actually help you to do that because it'll handle some wind a little bit better. And if you add some expo, it will be easier to get those smooth cinematic shots. Even with the extra weight of the DJI O4 Pro, the Pavo Pico 2 is a great little cruiser, and you can get into tight spaces or around people where you couldn't fly a bigger drone. But I have to admit that after flying that lightweight freestyle setup, the Pavo Pico 2 running the DJI O4 Pro is not nearly as agile or as maneuverable, and the flight times are way shorter. All right, you guys, I've got the Pavo Pico 2 next to the Pavo20 Pro because I want you to see how big the size difference is. Remember that the Pico 2 is running 45mm props with an 80mm wheelbase. Well, the Pavo20 Pro has 2.2-inch props, which are about 56mm, and it has a 93.7mm wheelbase. On paper, that doesn't sound like a big difference, but as you can see, it really is. If you plan to only fly the DJI O4 Pro and you don't mind a larger quad, the Pavo20 Pro is going to handle the weight of the DJI O4 Pro system so much better. And if you like the flexibility of being able to run the DJI O4 Lite, or if you're on a budget, or if you value that smaller size, for example, if you plan to fly indoors or if you want to rip around at your local park, the Pavo Pico 2 might be a better choice. Here's the Pico 2 next to the Pavo Femto, and the Pavo Femto has 40mm props and a 75mm wheelbase. You'll want to have a look at the Pavo Femto if you want the smallest possible DJI O4 Micro Ripper and you don't need the option to run DJI O4 Pro. The new camera bracket we see on the Pavo Pico is compatible with the Pavo Femto, and I'm sure BetaFPV will update the Femto to use the new bracket soon. And if you already have a Pavo Femto, you can just get the new bracket for $6. Alright you guys, now it's time for my conclusions. And I have to say that there's a lot to like about this little drone. With the DJI O4 Lite, it flies great, the power to weight ratio is insane, it doesn't make a lot of noise, and it's the perfect little park flyer. This new canopy does a great job of isolating the camera from vibrations, and it's made me look at the DJI O4 Lite in a different way now that I can count on decent quality jello-free footage. The weight difference between the O4 Lite and the O4 Pro is about 27.5 grams. And that's a huge difference on a micro drone like this, and it does really change how it flies. With the DJI O4 Pro, you're really gonna notice how much less agile and less efficient it is, and your flight times are gonna be way shorter. But if your priority is getting good quality cinematic FPV shots, you might be okay with that trade-off, because an 80mm drone with the DJI O4 Pro could be a very useful video production tool because it can go places that larger drones just can't. This isn't the smallest DJI O4 Pro drone out there, but I think the Pavo Pico 2 is about as small as a DJI O4 Pro drone can be while still flying well. And the ability to easily change over to the O4 Lite to turn it into a cheaper, lighter weight little ripper is pretty cool. What do you guys think of the Pavo Pico 2? Are you team freestyle or team cinematic? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, that'll do it for this one. See you in the next one.